So we're ready for our next step, how to be a good goaltender. The first step here is to learn ball control. Ball control underlies everything you do in competitive foosball. You know, there's nothing more fun than bar foosball. Bar foosball, home foosball, where you're just playing and having fun and shooting the ball. The other team shoots the ball. You play nice and fast. It's a lot of fun. The problem is that style of foosball does not win in open tournaments. What wins in open tournaments is controlling, strategizing, exploring defenses, exploiting holes, taking advantage, and holding precious every single possession. Slow foosball is winning foosball in tournaments. So, controlling the ball, setting it up, exploring various defenses, figuring out your best option, and scoring. Control foosball is where it's at. You have a choice when you play. The ball controls you, or you control the ball. Here's an example of the ball controlling me. Where am I going to shoot, where am I going to shoot, where am I going to shoot? Everyone knows. So, if the intersection point is going to determine where I shoot, the only benefit is if the defender doesn't know what they're doing, or they're slow, or I'm super, super fast. But that isn't real. What's real is you're about the same speed, the defender's intelligent, so best not to have the ball controlling where and when you shoot. Best to be is you control the ball. So, the way to control the ball, I always have my students start on the 2-bar. The 2-bar is easiest because the distance is the greatest, the number of men is the fewest, and I can pass back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is called a tic-tac. It's called a tic-tac because of the obvious noise it makes, tic-tac, tic-tac. The benefit of the tic-tac is I can change direction, I can shorten it, I can speed it up, I can slow it down, I can change direction, I can see where the defense is, and I can shoot or pass at any time. The problem is, it doesn't stop the ball. To stop the ball, I need soft hands. I need to actually touch the ball, move the ball, slow it down gently. So I have a soft hands move, I have a tic-tac. I can combine it. Setting up for a push shot, tic-tac, soft hands. Setting up for a pull shot, tic-tac, soft hands. So, soft hands and tic-tac, very critical to being able to control the ball. The next is a pin. That's called a front pin, useful for a European front toe and a snake shot. This is called a back pin. A back pin is useful for a back pin shot. Now, both pin shots are very, very good. Being able to pin the ball, very good option to have. Tic-tac, stop the ball, pin the ball, all critical. A lot more difficult as we move to the next rod. Why it's more difficult is the distance is smaller between the men, and there's more of them to worry about. So I have to weave. Now, by the way, when you're doing your tic-tacs, it's not just automatic, set it up and it goes back and forth. Every single tick, every single tack, I have to keep adjusting my man to make sure he's always in the middle of the ball. If the ball goes back, the man goes more back. If the ball goes forward, the man goes more forward. The good news is about all these ball control drills is you do it every time you play foosball. Sometimes you just work on ball control, but even when you're practicing your passing, you need ball control. You're shooting, you need ball control. Ball control is integral to almost everything you do in winning foosball. Practice it often, get comfortable with it. A lot more difficult when I move to my 5-bar. Number 1, the men are close together. Number 2, there's a lot more of them. And number 3, my left hand is not my dominant hand. So this will take a lot of practicing to be able to control the ball here. Ball control is one of the key basics you need to win at tournament level. Cut. Our next topic is all about learning the various defensive series. In other words, different defenses that you can use against different shots and different passes, with hopefully increased levels of success. Your defense stops the shot or it stops the pass. Now, we could have talked about this in the terms section. What are the names of the defenses? However, this can get very complex. So we're going to put this in its own area. We're going to start out with how we name the holes that you can score on. The holes are named 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The middle or the third hole, dead middle. The 5 hole, far side pull. Back to the middle, far side push. In between, the number 2 and the number 4. Let's start with a defense that covers the 1 hole and the 5 hole. The problem is that makes the middle way too big. The ball can probably not go through even if you give the 1.5 hole, because that is still going to catch a little bit of the man and go in the corner. Same thing here. 5 is too much, 4.5 is just about right. Come over here, shoot, catch a little bit of the corner of the man, and not go in the goal. So, what we now have is a 1.5, 4.5 is already a big improvement. And if we move that around, keeping it the same distance, changing the distance, bringing in a third man occasionally, already we have a pretty good snake shot defense. The middle. Just like covering too much of the 1 or the 5 is too much, covering too much of the middle is also sometimes too much. So instead of being right dead in the middle, we might consider being at, say, the 2.5 some of the time, still covering part of the middle, the 3.5 part of the time, still covering part of the middle, combining that with, say, a 1.5, and now we've also covered the middle. Move out to cover the pull long, come back to the middle. Come out again, here covering the middle. So covering a part of the middle a lot of the time is also quite beneficial. So now let's talk about defensive series. Your first defensive series is the I-beam. Having 2 men cover the same hole. Never ever a good defense. If it's in transition of moving around for a split second, okay, but anything longer, and that is not a good defense. A better defense is to stagger the men. Well, how much? Well, that still is not enough, because there's no way a ball can go through there. Still, if we widen it up, it still is not going to go through there. So if you use about 3/4 of a ball width, or maybe even a full ball width, that's going to take a perfect shot, you're still covering between the men pretty well. Next, even with this hole covered, the middle covered, you still have left open your pull and your push sides, so you got to cover those. Not having the men move at all the time, is a pretty bad defense. Not having the men move some of the time can be a very good defense. Having your men always moving is also a bad defense. They just watch for the man to move, and they shoot the hole where the man just moved from. Always and never is very bad in foosball. Some of the time, and most of the time, is much, much better. Never moving is a bad defense. Always moving is a bad defense. So maybe we have one moving quite a bit and the other not so much. Then they change. Much better. Covering a little bit of the middle, a little bit of the corner, a little bit of the middle, a little bit of the corner, bring in the third man unexpectedly, a much better defense. So we're covering different areas. Next, I'm going to call this rhythmic defense a basic shuffle. I'm keeping the same distance between the men. And what I'm doing is I'm relying upon the fact that I can shuffle pretty fast to try to intimidate them shooting the corners. Now, if they are very fast and then just as I move away from the corner they hit it, then what I need to do is I need to sometimes stagger my men differently. and not always have the same distance, but sometimes change the distance between my men. So I've added a degree of randomness to the distance between the men to a rhythmic shuffle. This time I'm going totally random. Well, not so random that I occasionally have an I-beam. That would be truly random, but wasteful. But if I have a fairly random defense that is trying to be not the least bit rhythmic, that can also be very difficult to score on. There's rhythmic, there's random, there's one man random, one man rhythmic. The next is a race. The ball is here, my men are covering dead on the ball. As the ball moves over, say in a pull shot, I race the ball to try to defend as the pull shot comes or the push shot comes, or I race the snake shot to the left, or I race the snake shot to the right. So a race defense can be very, very devastating. A bait defense. A bait defense anticipates. So let's suppose that I know from previous experience, you're a pull shooter. Lateral, smash in the corner is your favorite shot. And you really like to shoot that long square pull shot at about 5 seconds. Give it a little bit, take it away, give it a little bit, take it away, give it a little bit, take it away, give it. 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 5. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to time you based upon your previous timing, which is after about 4 or 5 seconds, the adrenaline gets too much. You can't hold it in any longer, which if I turn that around, and if you're the one doing the attacking, means you should not be predictable on your timing for your favorite shots. I find the best defense is one that continually changes what the pattern is. So it changes from, say, racing some of the time, to a random defense some of the time, to a rhythmic defense. And what we have now is a combination of different types of defenses that are trying to now pick the right time where you have your favorite hole and we bait them and we cover it just in time. So in fact, a combination or a hybrid defense is probably sort of the best defense. What's interesting is you get scored on. Do you change just a small thing like your timing? Do you change your overall defensive series? What do you do? Making adjustments is the biggest difference between a pretty good tournament player and a master tournament player. Confidence goes along with that. So I have confidence in my defense, they just got lucky. If you're proven right and you win the championship, you're a pro master. If you're proven wrong, you're just a struggling semi-pro. So being able to identify what shot, what defense is best, saying to yourself that defense isn't cutting it and making adjustments to a new defense, that is what wins tournaments. What we're now going to look at is zone defense. And what a zone defense does is defend a zone. If the ball moves around, the zone doesn't. The zone stays in place. So for example, if we put goalie on the white square here, defense on the white square here, 5 bar in the middle, shooting from the 2 bar, the forward rod now has a couple of jobs. Its first job is to take away various passes that the 2 rod might want to do to pass to the 3 rod. The next job it has is to cover the remaining big open hole, which is this hole right along here. So once I see that they go past this point of no return, if I simply move my man to here, I've covered the major holes that are available in this zone. Now, if I come there too early, however, I open up this hole, the short spray, cover that, watch the pass, they move past it, I cover the long square, and I have a nice zone defense. This is not impossible to score against, but it's very, very difficult. Probably what people will do is when your zone defense is too good, is they'll look at explore possible passes or possible banks to break up your zone defense. A zone defense is a defense where the man defends an area or a zone. A man-on-man defense is where a man stays with the other man and keeps moving depending upon where the ball is going to. Man-on-man defense and zone defense. We covered previously various defensive series, and those defensive series were about standard shots by the 2-rod, by the 5-rod, by the 3-rod, things that you're expecting. Now we're going to cover things we don't expect. Lucky bounces, miss hits, fluky things. Together we're going to call it keeping out the slop. Now, obviously the benefit of keeping out the slop is they don't get a goal. But the other problem is once a team gets 1 or 2 or even 3 lucky goals, not only do they score as points, but their confidence goes way up, your confidence goes way down, and the game's pretty much over. So keeping up the slop is more than just good luck on your part. Keeping up the slop is a systematic thing that you can do. The first thing is how is the game getting sloppy? If it simply means that you're maybe giving up the ball too much, maybe it means you have to make a place for the ball to go when you catch it. Maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe instead of that, back to sort of the basics of goaltending, you're not trapping balls in your area and they're coming back for a second or third try. So that's a sloppy catch. Sloppy shots can be looked at this way. Let's suppose that Black has it on their 2-rod and they're going to be shooting through a maze of men. So I've got my men down, maybe he has one of his men down for a possible pass, and it looks like there's no hole whatsoever. And as he shoots the ball, it hits a couple of different men. And I start panicking because what was covering a beautiful hole with a great zone is now quickly getting sloppy. The key to a good slop defense is, number 1, knowing where your men are immediately. What that means is if I know that they're on the 2 and the 4 immediately, and if I see something sloppy coming right down the middle, I break my own zone and I cover the middle. If I see, however, it's coming to my left side, I move in unison to my left side or to my right side. Now the key to this is I don't have to think about it. In fact, I'm not even watching my men. What I'm watching is I'm watching the play develop. I see some slop happening, but I know ahead of time where my men are, and intuitively I know where they need to be, and I move there very quickly. The second thing is don't let adrenaline ruin a good catch. So if you're in a very, very intense match, and if you know that if you suddenly get some slop in there, you're gonna panic and kind of give the ball back, you have to force yourself to keep breathing. You have to force yourself to relax a little bit and let the rods be relaxed. Control the balls that come in your area, even when you're feeling adrenaline, even when you're getting slop. The next thing is anticipate and prepare. So, for example, if Black has it on their 3-rod, and we're expecting them to have a nice hard shot on the goal that hopefully my goalie will defend, I'm playing forward for red. What I normally do is I have my men here all prepared to catch a pass that's unexpected. So if they take a shot and it comes off my partner's man unexpectedly, all I have to do now is simply move a little bit. I'm already prepared. I'm all set to go. I simply just need to move a little bit to be right in position. Now, let's contrast that with having my man here. If suddenly the ball changed direction, I'd have to come all the way over to here as well as change direction. In other words, I wasn't fully prepared. So anticipating and preparing for the unexpected might mean that millisecond difference, that few centimeters or inches difference, that means that I can suddenly catch a ball that I wasn't ready for. Keeping up the slop, being prepared, anticipating, making quick adjustments, knowing where your men are, and keep calm, keep the adrenaline down. Keeping up the slop can add up to a couple of points almost every match. It can be the difference between winning and losing. The difference now is this is still a pull shot, but it's happening from the 2-rod. So what Kenny's going to do is he's going to pull it over as if he's shooting from the 3-rod and not be too successful. The reason is because he's got the same body position. The 2-rod is much longer, therefore he's going to clear himself by standing further away from the table and allowing him, now when he shoots a good shot, he's in perfect balance and not striking himself. Go ahead. So the same shot, but a different starting body position, standing further away from the table. Great. Now, in addition to pull shots, there's also something called a pull kick. Whenever you pass the ball as part of your shot, it's a kick. This is a pull kick. If you set up on the other side, what starts off as a push shot turns into a push kick. If they follow you along, then it's also nice to turn a possible push kick into a pass to the other side's winger. If you do a reverse, you can pass to your near side winger. You can do it from the push to the pull side, or you can set up on the pull side and do a single over to the far side, right winger. You can also come back to the near side. Once you have command over multiple shots and multiple passes, then the most enjoyable part of the game comes, strategy. Reading your defense, responding accordingly, and even if they're super fast, super strong, being able to execute your shots and your passes. The last thing we're going to talk about is shooting from the back, a bank shot. A bank shot is when you strike the sidewall. Go ahead. The idea when you're shooting the bank shot is not to move the rod left or right after the shot begins. You think of it like you're slicing a straight piece of cheese, and you go straight back, straight down, and just get that one slice. Now we're going to talk about the elements of being a great goaltender. Number one on the list is definitely not being able to score goals. Being able to score goals as a great defender can win you the match. But if you get stuffed, if you give up the ball, it can also cost you the match. Number one for great goaltenders is to control balls that come into your zone. Number two is to have a very high percentage of clearing the ball all the way down to the opponent's defender. Number three is having a good percent of blocking. Number four is definitely scoring. If you have a tight match and you have all the other basics covered, trapping the ball, clearing the ball, defending, and if you can throw in a timely goal from the back, that's a huge bonus and it gives your forward great confidence. However, it is not the most important of being a great defender. Another great element of being a great defender is to understand your partner. Some partners need a kick in the pants. Some partners just need unwavering support, even if they're not playing their best. If you understand what your partner needs, when they need it, and it's not just about making you as the goalie feel better, but it's about making the team maximize their abilities, then you form a great team. Let's talk now about defending against the bank. So if I have a person who's ready to bank, and suppose they have the ball in the middle of the playing field, My strategy is to cover the bank with a 3-bar. Then I have two choices on my 5-bar. I can either take away their straight option, or what I love to do is I love to take away their bank, which is to go right against the side that they usually prefer to bank against. And then finally, I've already talked this over with my defender. My defender takes away the straight option. Now, what I'm worried about now is I'm worried more about the pass than I am the bank. So go ahead and try a bank, Kenny, and we'll see if I can stop it. And if they radically change, so it's obvious they're no longer doing a bank, but if they're looking for a pass all of a sudden, I intercept it. So stuffing the bank and blocking the bank is usually looking at the two options, taking those away by the forward, possibly taking away their strongest option with the 5-bar, but realizing that there is a straight option, taking that away with the defender, limiting their ability of passing, and you can cut down a lot on the banking ability. Telegraph. A person who's clearing from the back needs to be aware of what the defender is doing defensively. First off, how do they set up defensively? Are they playing you for the shot? If they do that, they're giving you the pass. Are they playing you for the pass? Are they starting off covering the pass and then moving with you for the shot? So by understanding what's possible, shot, bank, pass, by understanding what your opponent is doing, that will now allow you as the defender to choose the right option for when to pass, when to shoot successfully. Let's take the option here where I'm attempting to intercept his shot. He knows this because in his fake shot, I'm really coming over to the main shooting area and reacting. So he knows I'm going to try to race him to about the 2 or 3 centimeter, or say maybe the 1-inch shooting position. His option is to go a little bit further and shoot it. Go ahead. Or to change speed. So what looks like a slow pull is suddenly now a very relaxed, very fast pull. It's just faster than my defense. Of course, another great option is to realize if he's playing shot, I'll just do a pass. And finally, if they have a zone defense is where the defenders don't move so much, with each defensive rod covering a different area of the shooting area. What they can now do is potentially do a pass. The objective of the bank shot, of course, is to score, which is your first option, but another option is just simply to break up the zone. So let's summarize what we've learned in this level, how to be a good goalie. We began by looking at ball control. Things like tic-tac, soft hands, pinning the ball, stopping the ball, controlling the ball. You have a choice of the ball controlling you, or you control the ball. We then looked at various defensive series. We learned terms like race defense, random defense, shuffle, and hybrids. We learned how the 2-bar shooting is a little bit different from 3-bar shooting. Much more critical, your placement of your body, making sure that you're in balance and able to move freely when you're shooting, passing, clearing, and banking. We also learned about keeping out the slop. Slop are lucky goals that go in that we can cut down considerably when we know